A billionaire tycoon once handed a struggling employee his entire annual salary, in cash, and told him to quit. Not because the man was incompetent. He was the top performer in the entire firm. He drove the right car. He lived in the right zip code. He wore the right watch. But the tycoon had noticed something in the man's eyes, something no salary increase, no promotion, and no performance bonus had managed to fix. It was the look of someone winning a game that was specifically designed to destroy him. The tycoon set the cash on the table and said 7 words. You don't have a money problem. You have a mirror problem. Right now, as you watch this, there is a very real chance those 7 words apply to you too. What you are about to see is the complete breakdown of the invisible rules that keep 99% of high earners financially paralyzed for their entire lives. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly why working harder is the most dangerous advice you have ever been given, and precisely how to build the one thing that actually creates freedom. The game is already running. Let's teach you the rules. Let's call the employee Elias. Elias earns $15,000 a month. To his neighbors, he is the benchmark. To his parents, he is the miracle they always hoped for. To his bank, he is a preferred client. A polite way of saying he is an extremely reliable source of fees, interest, and dependency. But every night, Elias stares at the ceiling with a weight in his chest that no upgrade has managed to lift. He is running a race on a treadmill that only gets faster the more he earns. One shifted algorithm, one corporate restructure, one bad quarter, and the glass walls of his life come down. The wealth looks real from the outside. From the inside, it is an exhausting performance. Here is the part Elias has never been shown. The treadmill was built on purpose. The ads are not random. The financing offers are not convenience. The "you deserve it" messaging you encounter hundreds of times a day is a precision instrument, pointed directly at the gap between what you earn and what you keep. It has been aimed at you since before you were old enough to have a bank account. The moment you truly see the system, you stop being operated by it. Before we go further, I want to give you something most financial content never gives you. Not just strategies, not just motivation. The actual thinking framework the tycoon uses before a single dollar is ever moved. He calls it the Inversion Principle. Most people ask, how do I get wealthy? The tycoon asks the opposite. What are the guaranteed ways to ensure I remain financially trapped for the next 30 years? The answers come back immediately. Maximize visibility. Make sure everyone around you can see exactly how much you earn by wearing it, driving it, living in it. Normalize debt. Convert your future labor into today's convenience, so gradually it never feels like a trap. Trust your future self. Believe that willpower alone, that you will somehow always have the discipline to save later, is a reliable financial strategy. Once you identify those 3 patterns, something shifts. You stop trying to be good with money through force of character. You start building systems that make being bad with money structurally difficult. That is tycoon logic, not discipline. Architecture. Most people treat their future self like a stranger they can comfortably ignore. They pay the landlord first, the car note first, the subscriptions first. Then they look for whatever fragment remains to save. That is not a financial strategy. That is surrender. The tycoon treats his future self as his most dangerous creditor. If he does not pay that debt first, the interest rate is not charged in dollars. It is charged in years of his life he can never recover. John D. Rockefeller understood this before he had anything worth understanding it with. As a young bookkeeper on a modest salary, he followed one rule without exception. A portion of everything he earned was his before any other claim was honored. Not because he had a surplus, because he had a principle. Whether the amount is $500 or $5,000, that money moves before the bills are opened. This is not about the math, it is about identity. You are training your mind to accept one non-negotiable truth, that you are an owner, not just a consumer. That single shift, practiced when it feels almost pointless, is the foundation every other principle is built on. When you start paying yourself first, you will feel tighter. Most people panic and assume something has gone wrong. What has actually happened is the financial pressure you are now feeling is not new pressure. It is existing reality, finally made visible. That visibility is not the problem. It is the solution. Most people carry a number in their head, a rough estimate of what they spend each month. Almost universally, that number is wrong. Not slightly, significantly. The gap between what you believe you spend and what your bank statement shows is not the result of dramatic purchases. It is the accumulated weight of small, invisible ones. The meal delivery app opened 3 times a week because you were tired. The subscriptions running silently in the background you signed up for 18 months ago and have not thought about since. The convenience fees, the premium upgrades, purchases that never registered as decisions because individually they were too minor to feel like choices. None of it feels dangerous in the moment. That is precisely why it is dangerous. The Rothschild banking family tracked every transaction, not because they were miserly, but because they understood one thing. Awareness is leverage. When you know exactly where your resources are going, you control the direction. When you do not, the direction controls you. You do not need a sophisticated system. You need one habit. Look at the actual numbers. An app, a spreadsheet, your notes. The tool is irrelevant. What matters is that you stop operating on assumption and start operating on information. Because the moment you see the real numbers, something happens that cannot be undone. The numbers are indifferent to your narrative. They show patterns, and patterns reveal the identity you have been operating from, without ever consciously choosing it. That discomfort is not punishment, it is power. This is the one the Tycoon saw in Elias's eyes. And it is the one most financial content never addresses, because it lives beneath behavior, at the level of identity. When Elias upgrades his car, he tells himself it is a reward. When he moves to the glass apartment, he tells himself he has earned it. When he buys the watch, he tells himself it is a professional investment. But here is what is actually happening. Every one of those purchases is Elias looking in a mirror and trying to like what he sees. The spending is not about the objects. It is about the story the objects tell him about himself. And because that story requires constant updating, because the mirror always eventually shows you something you want to upgrade, the spending never stops. It only escalates. This is the mirror problem, and it is why income alone never solves financial stress. If your spending is driven by how you need to see yourself, every raise in income simply raises the bar of the performance. The gap between what you earn and what you keep stays exactly the same, regardless of the number. Real self-respect does not need an audience. It does not need a car, a zip code, or a watch to confirm it. The moment you stop needing external objects to validate your internal worth, the mirror problem dissolves, and the ghost margin appears in its place. The ghost margin is the widening space between what you earn and what you actually need to exist, a growing surplus of capital and mental energy that nobody around you can see, and therefore nobody can touch or pressure or influence. While Elias is upgrading his life to match his status, the Tycoon is quietly widening this gap. He lives on 60% of his income. He invests 30% directly into wealth-building assets. He allows 10% for genuine wants. That 30% compounds in complete silence. Visibility invites interference. When you look wealthy, the world taxes you. Your ego demands upgrades. Your friends subtly expect more. The social pressure to maintain and escalate the signal is relentless and extraordinarily expensive. The ghost margin protects you from all of that, because nobody is pressuring you to spend money they do not know you have. Here is what it actually feels like. True power is not the car. True power is a $20,000 emergency that does not register as a crisis. It is the ability to say no to a toxic manager because you are not chained to a monthly payment. It is sleeping without running financial calculations at 2 in the morning. It is time, genuinely yours, not borrowed from a future version of you who is still paying it back. Build the ghost margin in silence. Protect it in silence. Let it compound in silence. Hustle culture will tell you to work 16 hours a day until results appear. That is not a strategy. That is desperation with a productivity aesthetic. And it is designed to keep you on the treadmill, not off it. The Tycoon does not focus on doing more. He focuses on owning more. He looks for asymmetric leverage, ways to build systems that continue generating returns without requiring his constant presence. A digital product created once and sold repeatedly. A dividend portfolio that pays regardless of whether he shows up. A rental asset that earns while he sleeps. None of these need to be loud. They just need to operate independently of his daily attention. When your quiet income begins covering even your most basic needs, you have crossed what I call escape velocity. You are no longer working entirely for survival. You are working because you choose to. That single shift, from obligation to choice, changes every decision you make from that point forward. You negotiate differently, you tolerate differently, You walk away from things you would have previously endured. This is what power actually feels like. Not loud, not flashy, just the quiet, permanent awareness that you have options. Build the engine small. Build it now. Let it run in the background of an ordinary life. Here is where most people destroy their own progress. You have built some margin. A surplus is quietly growing. You have been intentional and consistent for longer than feels comfortable. And then the thought arrives. The thought that feels perfectly reasonable, almost earned, that you have been disciplined long enough to deserve a reward. This is the most dangerous moment in the entire process. I call the version of you that shows up here the midnight self. It is the impulsive, exhausted, emotionally reactive person you become when your daily reserves are gone. It cannot be argued with, reasoned with, or disciplined into good behavior. The only move that works is outdesigning it entirely. You do this by building the friction layer, the intentional creation of structural distance between your impulses and your progress. A second bank account at a different institution with no debit card and no app on your phone. An automatic transfer that moves money before you see it, before the midnight self even knows it existed. Out of sight becomes out of mind. Out of mind becomes untouched. And untouched, over years, becomes the foundation of something that cannot be undone. You are not relying on your future self to make good decisions under pressure. You are making one good decision now, from clarity, and removing the option to reverse it when clarity is gone. Systems outperform willpower every single time, because systems do not have a midnight self. The middle class calculates life in monthly payments. Can I cover $300 a month for this? The tycoon calculates in total cost and opportunity loss. What does this decision cost over a decade? And what would that capital become if it were compounding instead of depleting? Those two questions lead to entirely different lives. This is poor math versus rich math. Poor math asks what something costs per month. Rich math asks what it costs over time, and whether the signal it sends is worth the freedom it quietly removes. A car payment that feels reasonable today is years of compounding that never happened. A dozen forgotten subscriptions is a meaningful investment made invisibly into someone else's business rather than your own. Ownership is the only thing that compounds. You cannot compound a luxury dinner. You cannot compound a first-class seat. You can only compound assets you own. The shift from consumption thinking to ownership thinking, even when the amounts are small, is the precise line that separates people who stay stuck from people who eventually build something real. One is a consumer. The other is a builder. The salary is often identical. The trajectory never is. 3 final moves. Each one is a system, not a habit. Together they are the engine that makes everything else permanent. The 60-30-10 rule. Most financial guidance recommends 50% for needs, 30% for wants, 20% for savings. That is a reasonable strategy for someone who wants to retire comfortably at 65. If you want to be free significantly earlier, you cannot play defense. Cap needs at 60%. Funnel 30% directly into wealth-building assets before anything discretionary is touched. 10%, and only 10%, for wants. This creates intentional pressure. When the wants budget is genuinely tight, you are forced to find satisfaction in things that do not cost money. Time, relationships, silence. And discovering that those things are where genuine satisfaction actually lives permanently severs the connection between your peace of mind and your spending. If you cannot live on 60% of your income, you do not have an income problem. You have a lifestyle bloat problem. And lifestyle bloat is always fixable, because it was always a choice. Kill the debt architecture. Buy now, pay later. Monthly installments on things that depreciate. Minimum payments that keep balances alive for years while interest compounds against you. None of it looks dangerous. That is the design. Financial systems do not profit when you are wealthy. They profit when you are in debt and dependent. Debt does not just cost money, it costs freedom. Because once your lifestyle depends on payments, you cannot walk away from anything. Not the job that drains you, not the circumstances you would otherwise change. One test. Apply it to every financial decision you face. Does this asset pay me, or do I pay for it? If it only costs you, it is a liability, regardless of how normalized it is, regardless of how good it looks from the outside. You are not trying to look free. You are trying to be free. Those are not the same pursuit. Automate your destiny. The tycoon does not wake up every morning and decide to be wealthy. He made that decision once, at a moment of clarity. and then built a machine to execute it so the decision never needed to be made again. Investments automated, savings automated, transfers triggered before the spending account sees the money. The system runs without him, because he understood something most people learn too late. Making wealth building a daily choice means eventually making the wrong choice. Motivation fades. Discipline weakens. Life gets complicated. The automated system does not care. It executes anyway. You are not relying on who you are on your worst day. You are relying on a decision made on your best day, and then you stepped out of the way. Build the system once. Let it compound in silence. Let time do the work that willpower never could. Look at Elias one last time. He took the Tycoon's advice. He stopped the performance. He sold the car. He addressed the mirror problem, not by lowering his standards, but by relocating his standards away from external objects and toward internal freedom. He built the ghost margin. He outdesigned his midnight self. He automated his destiny. Within 2 years, the weight in his chest was gone. Not because he had millions, because he finally owned his time. He was no longer a tenant of his own ego. The cash the Tycoon placed on the table was not a gift. It was a challenge. Start over. This time, design the system first. Now, everything in this video is the outer architecture, the behavioral systems, the structural moves. But there is a layer beneath all of it that most people never address. Your inner blueprint, the beliefs about money you absorbed before you were old enough to question them. The unconscious ceiling you keep bumping against regardless of how many strategies you learn. Look at Elias one last time. He took the Tycoon's advice. He stopped the performance. He sold the car. He addressed the mirror problem, not by lowering his standards, but by relocating his standards away from external objects and toward internal freedom. He built the ghost margin. He outdesigned his midnight self. He automated his destiny. Within 2 years, the weight in his chest was gone. Not because he had millions, because he finally owned his time. He was no longer a tenant of his own ego. The cash the Tycoon placed on the table was not a gift. It was a challenge. Start over. This time, design the system first. The world is designed to keep you reactive. It wants you focused on the car, the watch, the visible signal of arrival, rather than the cold, quiet systems used to get there. It wants you in the consumption loop because your debt is someone else's compounding return. To break the cycle, you have to make one choice most people never make. Stop being the tenant of your own ego. Become the architect of your own freedom. The system is already running. The only question is whether you designed it, or whether you are a resource inside someone else's. Most people will watch this and move on. A few will stay and change. You already know which one you are.